They say trauma can make you forget things. But no one ever talks about the kind of pain that makes you pretend you've forgotten just to see if the person you love will lie to your face. I was lying in that hospital bed, bandages on my head, wires stuck in my skin. But my heart was already broken, long before the accident. And yet, when I opened my eyes and saw her face my girlfriend of 3 years standing by my side with tears in her eyes, I didn't say her name. Instead, I whispered, "Who are you?" It wasn't amnesia. It was something worse. It was doubtful. Suspicion that had festered for months. Whispers of late-night calls she wouldn't explain. Locked screens. Excuses that didn't match. A gut feeling I couldn't shake no matter how much I wanted to believe her. But this time, I wanted the truth to reveal itself without confrontation. I wanted to see her unfiltered reaction. She blinked. Just once. And then smiled. That soft, familiar smile, the one that used to melt me. But her words froze the blood in my veins. "I'm just a friend," she said. Just a friend? 3 years, reduced to 2 words. My heart didn't race. It stopped. And in that moment, I knew. I had lost her long before I ever hit the pavement. This was no accident. This was fate giving me the chance to unmask what love had blinded me from. And I wasn't going to waste it. Her name is Alina. Or at least, that's who she was to me. The girl I met 3 years ago on a rainy Thursday afternoon, when both of us reached for the same psychology textbook at the university library. We laughed, awkwardly apologized, and ended up sharing the book, sitting shoulder to shoulder at that wooden desk while the storm outside raged like a metaphor we didn't understand yet. Alina was smart, quiet, the kind of girl who didn't need attention but always seemed to have it anyway. She had this gravity to her, this strange pull that made people lean in just to hear her speak. I was just some average pre-med student, the kind who cracked bad jokes and always carried extra gum. But somehow, she picked me. And when she smiled at me that day, I felt chosen. Lucky. We moved fast. Within months, we were inseparable, studying late, walking home together, falling asleep on video calls. Her laugh became the soundtrack of my nights. Her opinion became the voice in my head. Loving her was effortless. Trusting her was automatic. For 2.5 years, I never questioned anything. But in the last 6 months, something changed. She got distant quiet in ways that weren't peaceful anymore. She stopped telling me about her day. Stopped asking about mine. She started staying out late, claiming study groups and project meetings, but always coming back smelling like someone else's cologne. Her phone, once left on the couch without a care, became glued to her hand. Locked. Silent. And then there was him, Zane. He was in her philosophy seminar. Tall. Confidence. Always posting vague quotes on his stories like he was some tragic poet. I saw his name flash on her screen more than once. Late night calls. Emoji hearts. She swore they were just classmates, that I was being paranoid. But the gut doesn't lie. I didn't confront her. I told myself I needed proof. I didn't want to accuse her and ruin us if I was wrong. But that night I crashed my bike, skidded out a wet road, cracked my head open, and woke up to blinding white lights. I realized something. She hadn't even called my parents. Zane had. He was the one who brought me to the hospital, not her. When she finally showed up, 2 hours later, eyes puffy and makeup smudged, I didn't ask why she was late. I just asked who she was. And when she said just a friend, I realized I was finally going to get the truth, but not the way I wanted. Not through confrontation. Through pretending I forgot. Because sometimes the only way to catch a lie is to erase yourself from the story and watch who replaces you. The doctors had cleared me for mild conversation, asked me basic questions to test my memory. I passed every single one, intentionally failing only one. "Do you recognize this woman?" they asked, motioning to Alina. I looked at her, cocked my head, let my brows knit together like I was trying to place her face. "No," I said softly. I don't know her." Her eyes flinched, just for a split second. Then she smiled like it didn't matter, like it was okay. "I'm just a friend," she repeated, like a script she had already prepared. That was the moment I chose not to correct her. Not to say, "I'm your boyfriend." Not to ask why Zane's contact info was listed as my emergency contact instead of hers. I laid back and let it all unfold. In that sterile hospital room, under the harsh buzz of fluorescent lights, I launched a performance I never thought I'd give. Over the next few days, I watched her carefully. She showed up at visiting hours like clockwork, always alone, always carrying fruit or soup or flowers. She looked like the perfect concerned friend. Not a lover. Not someone who knew every mole on my chest or the way I like my coffee or the scar behind my knee. I kept playing dumb. I asked her name again on day 3. She laughed and said, "Alina, we go to the same university." She didn't mention the anniversary we had just celebrated. She didn't mention the playlist she made for our road trips. She didn't mention the ring she wore on a chain around her neck, my ring. Instead, she told stories about campus events we had never attended together, made vague references, nothing personal, nothing intimate. Like I was some classmate she helped out of pity. And I smiled through all of it. Because I knew if I wanted the truth, I couldn't beg for it. I had to bait it out. I had to let her believe I was gone so I could finally see who she really was when no one was watching. That's when I realized this wasn't just about love anymore. It was about revenge. The thing about pretending to forget someone is you start to see how much of your relationship was real and how much of it only existed in your head. The more I watched Alina, the clearer the cracks became. She was attentive, yes, but in a surface-level way. She brought snacks I never liked, asked about shows I never watched, told me stories that danced carefully around specifics. It was as if she had to tiptoe around the real me because she didn't remember who I was either. I kept playing the fool. "So, we were classmates?" I'd ask, staring into her eyes like I was searching for familiarity. She'd nod too quickly, as if eager to shut down any questions that might trip her up. "Yeah, we studied psychology together. You always sat near the back. We weren't super close." I wanted to laugh. I'd held her in my arms the night she broke down after failing an exam. I'd driven 6 hours to surprise her on her birthday. We had a private Spotify playlist named for the rainy days. But now I was a vague shadow in her retelling. A back row student. The lies weren't even good. And yet she looked so at peace in them. So casual. So relieved. That's when I knew. The truth wasn't just that she had cheated or left emotionally. The truth was that she had rewritten our story entirely. And I had become a side character in her narrative. But I wasn't the only one noticing things. Zane came by on day 5. He knocked once, stepped in, and didn't even glance at Alina before walking to my bed. "Hey man," he said, like we were lifelong buddies. "Are you doing okay?" I looked him over slowly. He was taller than I remembered. Polished. Confidence. Like a man who had no guilt at all. "Have we met?" I asked, narrowing my eyes. He smirked. "Kind of. We've crossed paths at campus parties. I'm Zane." I looked toward Alina, who sat stiff in the corner. Her hands were clenched around her purse strap. "He's the one who brought you in after the crash," she added quickly, avoiding my gaze. "Wow," I said, offering him a forced smile. "So you were there?" He nodded. Right place, right time. He didn't mention that he called my parents before she did. That he was listed as my emergency contact. That he had my blood on his hands before she even arrived. The room grew quiet after that. Alina wouldn't meet my eyes. Zane sat in the chair beside me like he belonged there, and I smiled because the pieces were falling into place. I started testing them. Every day I asked Alina a new question. Small, harmless, but targeted. "What's your favorite flower?" She paused. "Tulips." It was lavender. I had planted them in her apartment window box myself. "Did we ever hang out before?" "Not really. Just here and there. We had matching hoodies, matching mugs." She lied so easily. The following morning I told the nurse I wanted my things, my backpack, my phone, whatever they'd salvaged from the scene. And there it was. My phone. Cracked screen, but functional. Locked, but I remembered my code. I turned it on, nervous, breath stuck in my chest. 58 unread messages. Most of them are from my mom. 2 from Alina. One said, "You okay?" The other was 2 weeks old. "Sorry I didn't answer last night. It got late." But what really caught my attention was a notification from a cloud backup app. She'd logged in from a new device. That meant one thing. She had gone through my phone. Maybe to delete something. Or to see what I knew. The betrayal ran deeper than I thought. And now? Now I didn't just want the truth. I wanted her to admit it. Not with tears. Not with apologies. I wanted her to look me in the eyes and say, "Yes, I chose someone else. Yes, I erased you." Because only then would I finally feel sane again. I wasn't looking for anything when I opened the hidden folder on my phone. I just wanted to clear storage, erase the hospital photos, maybe scroll through something that reminded me of who I was before the crash. But instead, I found something I didn't remember saving. A video. It was recorded 2 weeks before the accident. I pressed play with shaking fingers. It was my apartment. My kitchen. My voice. Alina's laugh. Then Zane's voice closer than it should have been. They weren't being discreet. In fact, it sounded like they didn't think I was home. Or maybe they didn't think I'd ever hear it. "I feel bad," Alina said between breaths. "He's been good to me." Zane chuckled. "You don't look like you feel bad." She laughed again. "Don't say that. He's just comfortable. Familiar. But you, God, Zane, you make me feel alive." Then there was silence. The kind you only hear when 2 people are kissing. I watched the whole thing. Heart stuttering. Breath caught somewhere between a scream and a sob. It was only 3 to 4 seconds long, but it was enough to change everything. I hadn't just been suspicious. I hadn't just imagined the distance. I had been living with a lie. And suddenly her fake stories, her soft smiles, her just a friend's script, they weren't just betrayals. They were performances. She knew what she had done. And she was trying to erase me, not because she was a shaman, but because she had already moved on. And that meant one thing. The game was no longer about catching her in a lie. It was about making her confess it and watching her break. The truth didn't free me. It chained me tighter. After watching that video, I didn't feel Reginald right away. I felt cold. A terrifying clarity, like a surgeon's scalpel. Precise, calculated, and entirely numb. She had already left me emotionally, physically, intimately. But instead of walking away, she stayed just close enough to keep up the illusion. To maintain control over the story. Over me. "Just a friend," she said, like we hadn't built 3 years of a life together. So I decided, if she wanted to rewrite the past, I'd let her. But I would write the ending. I started playing the long game. The next time she visited, I smiled like she was a stranger I enjoyed. I asked her to bring me my class notes, pretending I remembered only fragments of university life. She looked surprised, maybe even flattered, like she mattered to me again. She came back the next day with a notebook. But it wasn't mine. It was Zane's. I knew his handwriting, immediately pretentious cursive, words underlined twice for no reason. I didn't let on. I flipped through the pages, pretending to absorb the content while scanning for anything useful. Halfway through, I found what I was looking for. A sketch. Rough, but unmistakable. It was Alina, lying in his bed, eyes closed. Her bare shoulder was shaded in charcoal. He'd drawn her, and she'd brought me the evidence herself. "You drew this?" I asked innocently. She paused. "Oh, that? Yeah. It's our class. We all posed for each other." A stupid lie. An unnecessary one. She didn't even realize she was lying now. It had become a reflex. That night, I messaged Zane. It wasn't hard to guess his passcode. 0423 Alina's birthday. Disgusting. Once I was in, I didn't have to dig far. There were messages. Dozens. From the weeks leading up to the accident. Photos. Voice notes. One in particular caught my attention. Zane's voice. "He's getting suspicious. You sure he doesn't know?" Alina. He suspects, but he won't confront me. He never does. Zane, maybe he needs a reason to. Alina, what do you mean? Then silence. That was it. The audio cut off. But it was enough. My accident wasn't just fate. It might have been orchestrated. Now I was playing with fire. So I turned up the heat. The next day, I told Alina I was remembering things. Slowly. Blurry faces. Familiar voices. Her reaction was instant. Her eyes widened, fingers clutching her purse tighter than before. Oh? That's great. Do you remember me? I think so, I said softly. You were more than a friend, weren't you? She hesitated. Just for a second. We were close, she said. But not in the way you think. You always thought there was something more. Lie. And Zane? I asked. Was he around then too? She smiled, too quickly. We all hung out together sometimes. You might be mixing things up. I let it go. For now. But something shifted after that. She started texting me late at night, checking in more frequently, calling me sweet and brave. She was trying to manage the damage, trying to hold on to the version of herself she thought I remembered. But I wasn't playing defense anymore. I began telling nurses she was my girlfriend. I asked for her to be listed as my official contact. I told the physical therapist that we'd been together for years. And every time I did, I watched her expression carefully. She never corrected them, because doing so would expose her. She let the lie grow again, and I watered it. I asked her to help me walk again. I made her sit with me through rehab sessions. I smiled more. I laughed at her jokes. I even complimented her perfume, the same one I had gifted her last year. She thought I was falling for her again. She didn't realize I was laying a trap. 2 days later, I asked her to bring me my laptop from home. She hesitated. I'm not sure where it is. It's in the drawer by the bed, I said, watching her. You used to use it too. Her smile twitched. Right. I forgot. That night, she brought the laptop. But it had been wiped. Factory reset. All history is gone. That was the moment I knew she was scared. And fear makes people reckless. The next morning, I got a message from an unknown number. I know you're lying, it said. No name. Just those 4 words. I smiled. Zane. He was unraveling. That same afternoon, he stormed into the hospital room unannounced. No flowers. No fake concern. He stood over me, jaw clenched, eyes burning. You remember everything, don't you? I met his gaze. Who are you? He laughed, dark and bitter. Cut the act, man. I know what you're doing. Alita walked in moments later, eyes wide, cheeks flushed. Zane, she said. What are you doing here? Tell him, he snapped, pointing at me. Tell him the truth. You owe him that much. She looked between us, frozen. I leaned back in my bed, voice soft. What truth? And that's when she broke. I didn't mean for it to happen, she whispered. I never meant to fall in love with someone else. You were so good to me, but I felt like I was suffocating. Zane made me feel alive again. I didn't want to hurt you. But you did, I said. She swallowed. Yes. Zane smirked like he had won something, but he hadn't. Because now I had what I needed. The truth. And they had no idea what I was about to do with it. It all came down to one conversation. I waited until I was discharged. Until the bandages were off, the limp reduced to a stiff walk. Until I had everything in place, my laptop restored from a secondary backup, screenshots ready, audio recordings tucked into a private folder. Then I invited them both to my apartment. Neutral ground. Alina walked in first. She was dressed careful, like she was stepping into something sacred. She brought a tray of fruit, like this was a casual visit between old friends. She sat on the couch like it was still hers. Zane arrived a few minutes later. No greetings this time. Just tension radiating from every inch of his body. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, like he was expecting a fight. He wasn't wrong. I sat across from them, calm, controlled. A version of myself I hadn't known I could become. Thanks for coming, I said. I've remembered a lot. Alina smiled nervously. That's good. That's really good. I remember the anniversary trip we took to the cabin last year. I remember the tattoo you got on your ribcage, the one you said was just for you. But it's the coordinates of our first kiss. Isn't Pog? It? Her smile faltered. I remember Zane showing up to my birthday dinner uninvited. I remember your silence that night and how you left early. Zane looked down. And I remember, I said slowly, how I crashed my bike that night, trying to get to you. Because I thought maybe just maybe you'd be home. Maybe you'd tell me everything. No one spoke. So I continued. I also remember finding a video on my phone, one where you, Alina, said you felt guilty because I was comfortable, but he made you feel alive. She turned pale. I remember you logging into my backup to delete it, but you didn't know I had a secondary cloud. I stood up, walked to the TV, and mirrored my phone to the screen. The video played. Neither of them tried to stop it. Zane looked furious. Alina looked like her soul had left her body. And then, I played the audio. The one where Zane said I needed a reason to suspect something. The one where Alina didn't argue. When it ended, I turned to them, dead silent. You didn't just betray me, I said. You tried to destroy me. Emotionally. Maybe even physically. I didn't know he'd get hurt. Alina said suddenly, standing. Zane just meant he didn't mean to. I meant what I said, Zane cut in. You were too soft to see the truth. You clung to her like a puppy. She outgrew you, man. I walked to the table, opened a manila envelope, and tossed it in front of them. Alina picked it up. Inside were printed screenshots, messages, audio transcripts, my signed complaint to the university's ethics board, and one final note, a formal request for a restraining order. I'm not going to the police, I said. I'm not going to ruin your lives the way you tried to ruin mine. I want you both to live exactly as you are now together, with the truth between you, with this stain on your conscience. And if you contact me again, even once, I'll make everything public. Alina burst into tears. Please, you already made your choice, I said. I just remembered mine. Zane didn't say anything. He looked like a man who had realized, too late, that he wasn't in control anymore. I walked past them both, opened the door, and stood there until they walked out in silence. No yelling. No drama. Just an ending. And maybe that was the most devastating part of all for them. Because I didn't need revenge for spilling blood or breaking bones. I needed the kind of revenge that would echo. And this would echo for a very long time. After they left, I didn't cry. I didn't scream or throw things. I just sat in the quiet, listening to the hum of my apartment. The same place where she used to hum in the kitchen, where I used to imagine a life that no longer existed. It was over. All of it. The lies, the gaslighting, the silent suspicion that gnawed at me for months. The half-truths she whispered with a straight face. The way I clung to her even as she slipped through my fingers, day by day. Now I have confirmation. And closure. But closure doesn't come wrapped in justice. It's not always satisfying. Sometimes, it feels like standing alone on the edge of a battlefield. The smoke cleared, bodies gone, and no one left to say sorry. Just you and your wounds. I thought about the version of me who first met her. The boy with soft hope in his heart, who thought love was about being enough, about showing up, staying loyal, being kind. But I learned something else. Love isn't a guarantee. It's not owed. It doesn't matter how many mornings you made her coffee or how often you checked in when she felt low. If someone wants out, they'll find their door. And sometimes, they'll build it right behind your back. But here's the part I didn't expect. Healing didn't begin the moment I exposed her. It began when I stopped waiting for her to be someone she never was. When I accepted that the person I loved didn't exist anymore or maybe never did. That the we I fought for was one-sided. A ghost I kept alive because I was too afraid to admit I was alone. Now, I'm not afraid anymore. The hospital cleared me for full mobility last week. I've been walking farther every day, symbolic, I guess, of how far I've come. My phone's been wiped. New number. New email. The final digital detox. I kept one thing though. A photo from a year ago. We were on a beach trip. Her head on my shoulder, my arm around her. I don't look at it to feel pain. I look at it to remind myself what blind trust looks like, and what I'll never give so easily again. People ask me how I'm doing. I smile and say, better. It's true. Because the worst part wasn't the cheating. Or the lies. It was that I started to doubt my own instincts. I let love blind me. But now, I see everything. Clear. They say trauma makes you forget things. But I didn't forget. I remembered everything: the way she smiled at me the first time we met, the scent of her perfume in my hoodie, the night we stayed up talking about what we'd name our kids someday. And I remembered the moment she said, "Just a friend." Funny, isn't it? That those 3 words were more painful than the crash itself. But what she didn't realize, and maybe never will, is that in pretending to forget her, I finally remembered myself. Who I was before I began shrinking to fit into her version of love. Before I excused the silences, the lies, the moments that didn't add up. Before I called suspicion, jealousy, and betrayal bad timing. She gave me closure the moment she chose not to fight for me. He gave me clarity the moment he stood in my hospital room and tried to act like he belonged. And I gave myself peace the moment I stopped asking why and started asking, what now? What now is healing, rebuilding, living. Not to prove anything. Not to win some invisible competition of who moved on faster. Just to be. I don't hate her. That would give her too much space in a story that no longer needs her. She was a chapter, not the book. And me? I'm still writing.